We always start every meeting, even between ourselves, with silence, because it does help center people and remind them what actually this is about. So, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And I've just noticed that two of our guests are sitting in the crowd and they need to be sitting in the front of the come. So we're going to just move them. Thank you. Just sit down. Thank you so much. Come sit down. Come play it. We're going to move you to the front. We're going to use a couple of chairs. Sisters, why don't you sit here? You can see everything. Okay, thank you. So, as I said, apologies. We are just doing this on the hop. We are not professionals or PR companies, so we do the best we can. But you will see here today the immediate families of those beloved people who are on the poster. These are the mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, partners, the brothers and sisters, the children of those who passed away, grandchildren and grandparents, what is defined as interested persons in the Coroners and Justice Act of 2009, which makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. It's just that it's important to have that specific characteristic. Because when tragedy happens, and particularly where it's of such a public nature, the personal loss for those family members is completely lost in all the machine that kicks into place. And I think it's really important that you realize and recognize that behind the names and the numbers and the reports are real families and real human faces that have been impacted by this tragedy in a way that you cannot imagine. We work together, we cry together, we try hard, we get mad, we get angry. We are trying to address the systemic issues that not only led to the fire and the death of their loved ones, but what happened from day one, which was a systemic program that not only shut down their voices, but also meant that they were locked into what is now the inquiry, which is the reason why you're here today, taking an interest. For the press and the inquiry is a milestone moment. For the families, it's not anything they didn't know already. And the only thing that they've asked for from the beginning is justice. And justice means manslaughter charges, not health and safety, not misconduct in public office. And I think if you put yourselves in their shoes and it were, God forbid, your parents or your children, that's what would matter to you as well. We've brought the inquiry report here because this is justice by weight. Let's weigh how much this £173 million actually is. That's 4.5 kilos. Justice by weight. really important that you hear from them what the experience has been and what they want to say about what's been missing. So whoever wants to speak, you can just put your hand up. Make sure you hold the mic. I'll introduce you as who you are and the person on the poster, which is what we know. And but just make sure you put the mic in front of you. So who wants to, can you? His hand, who wants to do this? I'll introduce Hissam. This is Hissam Shakir. He lost 6 members of his immediate family. His sister, you won't be able to see it down here, his brother-in-law, his mother, and his 3 beautiful nieces in one night. Half of his family gone.
Where do you begin? First of all, my commiserations go out to all family members that are here, that have lost loved ones due to this inferno. My thoughts and prayers are with you all, and I just feel I feel everybody's pain, which is why I'm here today. The second thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank the inquiry for their findings and their recommendations. But the most important thing that we need to realize and understand is we did not ask for this inquiry. This inquiry was opened on the second day of the fire. The majority of us probably didn't have solicitors, didn't know what an inquiry was, and we did not know the consequences of having an inquiry and how that would impact on our justice moving forward. So this inquiry means different things to different people. For me, as a direct kin, this inquiry hasn't taught me anything. In fact, it's delayed the justice that my family deserves. And the only person I can blame for that is the government. This government opened this inquiry to prevent social disorder in London, and due to the majority of people that died, and has, in my opinion, perverted the course of justice and needs to be held accountable and has a lot to answer. This government did not consult us in any way, shape or form, did not take our views on whether we wanted this inquiry. This inquiry was forced on us. We had no say, we were not consulted. And like I say, to some it gives answers, and to some it doesn't do anything except it's put that extra nail in the coffin, as they say, or in the heart. Words cannot describe the pain that I have gone through, the pain that my family has gone through with having this inquiry running parallel to the criminal investigation. Watching the inquiry, for me, has been very painful. I've seen witnesses laugh, giving evidence. which burns me inside, how they can have the cheek to do that, knowing that they are partially to blame for what happened on that horrific day. You have other witnesses that didn't even turn up and submitted their submissions through their solicitors, claiming that they were not well enough to give evidence, yet this was not followed through and checked to see if this was actually correct. You have companies like Arconic, which hid behind what's the word? Hid behind the law of their country to not give evidence. Again, the chairman has summoned this important person to give evidence, yet it just shows you how weak our law is and the benefits of this inquiry, what it does. I'm sorry to say, but it's been a joke. I don't know how much money has been spent on this inquiry. I think it's about 170 million, but had we have had that money to pursue our own private investigation from the government, I would have taken it with open hands to pursue our own private prosecution. And I still don't understand, why is it that the inquiry was opened on the very same day of the fire or the next day? This is an abusement of power from the government. And the reason why the government has done this is because it knows that it is under criminal investigation itself. And in order to hide its findings or its responsibility, to take the heat out of the situation, this is why the inquiry was opened, to prevent social disorder on London streets moving forward, and because it's under criminal investigation itself. And the problem is, nobody is able to hold this government accountable. And this will continue to happen because our laws are weak. That's all. I'm sorry if I didn't present myself in the appropriate way, but when you're emotional about something or overwhelmed, it's difficult to sum up how you feel at the time of the moment.
Thank you, Sam. I think you did very well. Thank you very much for speaking. I know it's difficult, but I guess what you're trying to say is that the morning after the fire, when you didn't even know what was going on and who was dead or alive from your family, an inquiry was opened, and assurances by Theresa May, and assurances were made that the inquiry would not get in the way of the investigation or the prosecutions. And I actually have an email, a letter, which I kept all the letters, you see, a letter signed by Alok Sharma and Nick Hurd, who were both ministers at the time, giving an assurance on 24th of June 2017 that the inquiry would not slow down prosecutions or get in the way of prosecutions or the investigation. I think it's very important to understand that when people are at their most vulnerable, governments should safeguard the victim's interests. Whether it was a knee-jerk reaction or whether it was deliberate, we don't know. But the consequence was that for 7 years, these families have had no closure, because closure means criminal investigations and prosecutions, and in particular sense of where there's been violent death, it's manslaughter charges. The problem is, you have here is the Grenfell web of blame that's been talked about. And the inquiry spends a lot of time talking about all of these participants. And before I hand over to Shara or Karim, depending who wants to talk about it, essentially what this has done has meant that the CPS will find it very hard to meet the bar of probable conviction. Now, we're not lawyers, but we do know how to go and ask the right questions. And what's happened is, what we've been told is that it is very difficult to charge for manslaughter where there is multiple defendants. And you all need to do your homework and go and talk to some barristers and prosecutors. That's what they should be talking about, but they're not. This basically rules out or makes it very difficult for prosecutions for manslaughter. But I think it's best if maybe Shara can speak about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming here today. I think I have a duty of to the people who perished to say what I feel in my heart was the reality. Inquiry, the mammoth task, as it was, going through all those, documents of a titanic proportions, is not deniable. But the reality is, to me, I don't have justice, and any future prosecution that is foreseeable, I don't think is worth, even thinking about, because there's probably going to be some sort of minor charges with perpetrators getting away literally with murder. And that's the system we have in this country, where people in charge who fail their duties, who fail the watchdogs, who should have made sure that the security and the safety of the citizens are ensured, they're getting away with it. And that's the system we have. And I'm afraid, because there is no prosecution, we have seen only in the month of August, 26th of August, something that was, I would call Grenfell 2, happened in East London. Thankfully, there was no fatality this time, because the people had not stayed put. But if you look at the building, you can see that, it all burnt down, just like Grenfell. So 7 years on, people are living with this cladding. They're living in fear. So things has not changed. It's this illusion of learning from the mistakes have not brought about any concrete actions by the government in removal of those claddings. And I fear that is because there is no prosecution. There is no consequences for people who fail while they are in office. They can just go and ignore it. Ignore the public. There are thousands of buildings wrapped with cladding today. And with a government that we have that is not taking responsibility for taking them off, it shows that they don't fear any prosecution. If we had rightful prosecution in hand, these things won't happen. Just like it doesn't happen in North America. Well, it rarely happens in America, because if things like this happen, the punitive action, the penalties are so severe that not only people, companies, corporations would go out of business, their directors would be held personally responsible. And I expect, the Crown prosecution now to tell us what sort of prosecution they're intending to have they have in mind. To me, it's a manslaughter charge, and nothing less would do. If they want to have a minor charge that leads to a small fine with suspended sentences, then I'll, bring it back to the country and tell the people, this is the country and this is the system we have. And unless it's fixed, you're not safe in your own homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was just asked by one of the reporters, this gentleman is Shahrukh Hamlani, who lost his mother and his aunt in the fire. He's campaigned very heavily, and his family campaigned for the PEEPs, which is the personal evacuation plans, because his mother was disabled and died in the fire. So,
Can I go to Kareem now, maybe? Because, so Kareem lost his sister, Khadija Kaloufi, in the fire, and he's here with his mum and his other sister, Amal, and his mother, Zohra, who's sitting in the front. Kareem.
I'm Kareem Kaloufi, Khadija's brother. I have this opportunity today to present my condolences to all bereaved family members, because I didn't have this opportunity before. So for me now, at the end of this inquiry, I've analyzed everything. 7 years of waiting, of pains, of suffering, trauma, all the illnesses you can imagine. As Sam said, no one has asked us or asked me if I want this inquiry as it is, or give me a choice to go to court directly. 7 years. I was saying to myself, oh, 7 years, it's enough to get a justice. They have everything. They have the evidence. They have who did, when it was done, and how it was done. So this is enough to get a justice, to know, because what happens, it's a criminal investigation, and criminal investigation need charges and a fair trial, a conviction. So, until now, me and all my bereaved families think that we were robbed our justice. This delay has caused a lot of damage to us, has participated in denying our right. And we are asking, as Sharo said, the minimum we are asking is criminal prosecution for manslaughter. This is the minimum. Because all the people died deserve a justice. And all the people here deserve a justice. Nothing will be extinguished, or nothing will disappear inside what we are feeling now if we don't have this justice. Together, we will stop fighting for justice, because we know that there is a right for justice, and we will seek for the justice. We will go to, probably, and with the help of Grenfell, next of kin. Now we are preparing ourselves to see the Prime Minister and also the Minister of Justice, the CPS, the police, to fight, not to fight, but to tell them we have a right of justice and we want it. How it's going to be. People here are looking for that. So shall we wait for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Maybe my mom will die. Maybe I will die and not having this justice. My mom, she's stuck here for 7 years. She kept moving from a hotel to another hotel, to another hotel, to another hotel, making a lot of effort, bearing all the nice things and the bad things, because we didn't have the right treatment. We were discriminated. And we were a minority, but we are a strong minority who have the right to seek for the justice. We are going forward now, and we want to move on. And what I'm going to say about the inquiry has ended today. We have no lawyers, no more. But we have these people who are full of strength, full of anger. They will not let down. They will go on. They will continue to seek for this right. What was said and what is contained in the final report, it's all this detail that everybody knows. Okay, I'm not saying that from this report nothing will emerge. A lot of resolution, a lot of recommendation, a lot of improvement will be here. It's good, as I said before, it's good for British citizens, for law, for the coming generation. They are improving their life, yeah. But it's not for good for us, bereaved families, because we prioritize the justice now. So I'm going to end and say, I believe in justice in Britain. This is Great Britain. How come? People or other countries are following Great Britain as a model. So we cannot have this justice. So we need just to knock the door and go to the right persons who will help us getting this justice over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karim. Okay. All right.
So I'm just going to read this email that I referred to that was signed by Nick Hurd and Alok Sharma, which said, the inquiry will not delay the conclusion of the police inquiry, which will draw on the fire investigation. If criminal proceedings result from these investigations, they will be a matter for the independent prosecution authorities, and we would not expect them to be delayed by the establishment of the public inquiry. And of course, the opposite happened. And this was signed by Alok Sharma and Nick Hurd. And probably you didn't even receive that letter, because this was on the 24th of June, and probably you were going from hospital to hospital or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a very, when you talk about learning lessons, perhaps we should learn that lesson. I just wonder actually whether we could hear from some of the women. We have a lot of strong women involved in this situation. Actually, Flora's just arrived as well. But I wondered if Sister Mariam, who's actually herself a survivor, but she's going to speak for Hayat El Sanusi, who lost her sister and her nephew and her niece. And Mariam, if you can just say what Hayat has expressed with you, because sometimes it's just very difficult for people to actually speak in front of the camera, so they've had their discussion before. And keep it brief.
We're going to try to keep it brief because I know you've got other things.
Hello, my name is Mariam Adam. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm sorry, my English is not that good enough, but I want to tell you my feeling and my Auntie Hayat feeling. I asked my auntie a question, how she feel after 7 years. And to be honest, it was really, really sad what she said to me. She said to me, Mariam, on the 17th of June, I didn't lose just my sister. I lost my supporting sister, the one I grew up with her. And we're raising her family together. And she said to me, I came from Sudan. And when I came here, I accept all the way they treated me. I accept to stay in the hotel for 4 years, eating jungle food. And I said, okay, no problem what is happening. One day I'm going to get the justice. And she said, before I came here, before Greenfield, I had really a very good idea about Great Britain. That is like they said in our country, they said Sudan is like the third country in the world. And Britain, it is the first country. And she said to me, I was waiting for all these 7 years for justice, just for justice. And they stay here for 7 years just for justice. And she said, and I was thinking, no one up to the law. But I found that it is not true. And I'm really sorry to feel that. She said, I lost my sister, my beloved sister, her 2 young children, her nephew and her niece, very succeeded. They are studying university. So they came just to celebrate their mom, the Eid with their mom, but they, inshallah, I hope they're Eid in heaven. And she said, we only things we are asking is justice. So she said, I'm here, and I'm living here, and I'm so worried to happen what happened to my sister. And in our belief, justice is more important, because if you don't charge someone in criminal is going to continue. And what happened to Greenfield is going to happen to the others if they will not charge it. So And I believe for my inside, truth is going to win, and the law is going to win. And I'm waiting that to happen. And I wish if I can do anything to get the justice for my family. And I hope that is going to happen. Myself also, I have a very good memory with Auntie Fathia. When I moved in Greenfield, 2008, she was the first person I met in the lift. And the first person welcomed me in that family. And I hope the 72 people, they pass away. There is some children, I look after them in Greenfield nursery. And even some of them, I don't know if they were living in Greenfield. I found just after the fire. So please, please, I want really justice for them. And inquiry is finished. Even now, we don't have anyone to fight for us. And Hayat, she's really not feeling well. And I think no one feeling well. Even we are just a Greenfield resident, we are not feeling well. What about this lost their best loved ones? So I'm here because just to tell my voice, my Auntie Hayat voice. And I'm sorry, I don't want to cry here. I'm not here to cry. I am here just for justice. And I hope everyone, he has a hand what happened and to be charged. Because really we want to stop what happened to Greenfield to not happen to anyone. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam. I hope you're okay. I'll come talk to you in a minute. I just want to keep it really focused now because I know we've kept the press here for a while and we want to hear from as many voices as possible. So if I just move across, Marian, would you like to speak? Marian is here with her mother, Betty, and Mary Mendy and Khadija Say, the very talented artists that you have probably heard from. Mary Mendy is Betty's sister. So Marian is going to speak on behalf of her mother. And I think, just so that we can hear from lots of voices, I don't mean to cut anyone short, but let's just try to keep it moving.
I'm really sorry, but I don't really know what to say. We've heard some of the information about greed and dishonesty, and it was really hard for us to hear those words. And I just want everybody else to remember, this is about 72 people who lost their lives. And all we ask for is for someone to take responsibility, manslaughter charges to be brought in. We don't want misconduct in public place, anything like that. My mother lost her sister, her niece. Her sister is the one who brought her into this country, and she also brought me into this country. She took care of me. She did everything for me possible to become the person I am today. So I just want people to remember the 72 people who lost their lives. All we demand is justice for them, and for somebody to remember them. That these were people that lived and have dreams. Khadija's life was lost so short that everything she dreamt of happened after she passed away, and that shouldn't be what we should remember her for. We shouldn't have to remember her that because she lost her life in Grenfell. And I just want justice for them to know that we fought really, really hard for them. We didn't just stand by and watch what happened to them. We fought, we tried everything possible with Kamia's help, everything possible to try and get them justice. The Bible says, do not kill, thou shalt not kill. So we demand justice for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marion. That was very well put. And I would like to go to Mrs. Jabari. Mrs. Jabari lost 5 members of her immediate family, her daughter, her grandchildren, and her son-in-law, the Al-Wahabi family. She's going to speak through an interpreter. And so, if I can just give a bit of housekeeping here. If Mrs. Jabari says what she wants to say, and you write the English and do it in one go instead of sentence by sentence, yeah? So keep it sharp. Say what you want to say, and you translate in one go. Sorry, 85% of the people who died in Grenfell Tower were black and brown British citizens. And this has actually been a major challenge in the government response to this disaster. There was systemic racism, although the inquiry report concludes there wasn't. But they sort of said, if we find it, and look, we won't look for it, but if we come across it, we'll deal with it. But I was reading the report last night, which is not my ideal thing to read, and it actually, it's in the executive summary, I think, that Sir Martin Morbrick says there was no evidence of racism at all.
I have suffered a lot during 75 years and endured a lot because of the big loss. I lost my daughter with her children and her husband. And we have been waiting all that time for justice to be done, but nothing is implemented. They gave us a compensation, but it will not make up for the big loss I had. And I have been so ill, and I am enduring a lot because of what happened. And I still suffer from that post-traumatic disorder. We don't deserve to be treated as such. We need justice to be done because it's a big loss. It was a big loss. And we're still waiting for justice to be done, but nothing is done. I still suffer from what happened. I still suffer from post-traumatic disorder. In fact, I endured a lot because I lost my daughter with her children and her husband, 5 people in one go. But still justice is not implemented. What happened is a catastrophe, but the inquiries come to an end and nothing is done about it. All we got is a little amount of money compensation that wouldn't make up for the loss, the big loss I had.
Did you want to say anything else, Mrs. Jabari? Are you okay? Thank you very much. Can I go to Francis? Francis Dean. If Francis, you can stand up, because Zainab Dean and Jeremiah Dean, her little toddler, passed away in the fire. And without without telling the whole story, which Francis finds very traumatizing, I think you should appreciate that though the names and numbers and so on are there, the story of actually what people experience is so harrowing. And for Francis, he was captured on the police camera as he was on the phone to Zainab in the tower, begging her to come out. And he stayed on the phone with her, passed the phone to the firefighter to speak with her because he just couldn't take it anymore. And she described how her son had passed away in front of her, and then the firefighter passed the phone back to him and just said, "Tell her you love her." And then the phone died. So I tell you that, not to be gruesome, but I think you have to realize that the people sitting behind, in front of you, have had 7 years of going into the minutiae of the details and living and reliving it, and through the inquiry. And so the inquiry process itself actually becomes quite a traumatizing or re-traumatizing process in itself. So there are a lot of lessons to be learned about how this was done and the order in which it was done. And then to end up where the fire brigade as an organization, or the individual firefighters, are essentially off the hook. I think that has made a lot of people quite angry as well, because they're the ones that suffered the loss of life. So Francis, if you want to speak about whatever you want to speak about, and feel free to speak about the firefighters as well, because I know they're sort of almost like untouchable in terms of this story.
Well, thank you, Kimia. First of all, I want to thank the press for coming. Thanks for your support. And also, I want to thank Sir Martin Mobic for the report. I guess they've done a very hard work. It's taken 7 years to get to this point. But for me, I think 7 years is delay of justice, because we deserve justice. I mean, if I could go back to the night of the event, look how fast the building catch fire. It takes like 10 minutes, you know, and nobody is to be blamed, and everyone is just passing the blame to each other. Is that fair? That 72 lives died, you know. That night, from that night, I've not been the same person. Mentally, I'm messed up. I suffer from PTSD, and obviously, for stuff that happened in the past, it led to me losing my job. Right now, currently, I'm unemployed. But what we demand, we are demanding justice for these lives that died. People that died there, you know, people were screaming. So for me, it's always difficult to talk about it, because it's like, you just take me straight away back there. So I just try to compose myself as best as I can. But the government actually promises justice. You know, this was the previous government, and I do hope this current government can take up that lead and assure us that we are going to get justice. And we are also demanding justice. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. Just wanted to bring in the Samimi family here. They lost their mother and their auntie, and so Rahila Samimi, Masumi Samimi, and Melina Samimi, who is a bright spark because she's doing really well at university. We're very proud of you, because it has been particularly difficult for the young people who've had to keep going despite everything they're experiencing. Their futures are at risk when something like this happens. So Melina lost, obviously, grandma and auntie. So what would you like me to do? Do you want to speak through the interpreter? Yeah. Okay. I have a statement from them, but I think it's just better if they just speak through the interpreter. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for echoing our voice about the injustice that has been done about this incident, so everybody can hear our side of the story. after waiting for 7 years for a final result, we heard this injustice that made things difficult for us, that was basically just not acceptable, what we heard. So we were expecting to hear from the judge so a new statement and new findings. So because we know from the beginning who were the people responsible for everything that happened in Grenfell, and the evidence was potent for everybody. So in the first weeks of the inquiry, everybody knew there were a problem with the firefighters. They weren't trained enough, they didn't have enough equipment, and the council was responsible for many shortcomings and many things that was, many policy, safety policies that was not implemented properly, and everybody knew from the early weeks that these are the evidence and who are responsible. So it was shocking for us to hear the same, again, the same thing to be repeated as we heard 7 years ago, and nothing new and no new findings were added. So in any part of the world when the manslaughter happened, there is a court, and a judge will prosecute the people who are, the person or people who are responsible for this crime. So it was not fair to